Hello all, and this is Cody Wyman here. Let's say that you're trying to put the score from a bigger score to a smaller score. There are a couple of things that you should do. Now when I say from a bigger score to a smaller score, I'm talking about taking the stuff that's from like an orchestral sort of score and putting it into a reduced score. Not a piano reduction, but a reduced score arrangement like the one I have here, so it is more palatable for local musicians who may or may not be orchestral musicians. So there's a couple of things you should do. You should first pick your instruments. Pick instruments largely that can be used on a small stage. If it's a smaller, it's arranged for a smaller group than an orchestra. The second thing that you would probably want to do is you want to be careful. Now, this is the main point of the video. You want to be careful when you're transposing different things. When you're transferring the parts from one score to another, because Finale will do this weird little thing of changing the key on you, or transposing the key up when it's supposed to be held on the same pitches. It'll do that transferring from one score to another. So I'm going to play for you what I mean. Now you'll hear that guitar part is not in the original key that I had it in. Turns out that when I first transferred this over, this violin part was in, it was a sixth up from the original key. So it was where the guitar part is now. It was when I transferred it over, it jumped a sixth. And so what you want to do is you want to use the utilities menu, the transpose function, to make sure all your parts are in the correct key. I wouldn't suggest trying to change the overall key signature of the piece, because that doesn't really change it for the better. It makes it worse. You're better off changing and transposing the parts individually. That's what I've found when I try to do the transposition as a whole score, or try to go to the key signature tool, which is right here, and I try to do this. It's not going to let me. It's not going to let me change just the parts that need changing. It's going to change the whole thing, and it's going to sound really weird. So you don't want that. What you want is, and I'm just going to go ahead and select the entire part. And note this song isn't done yet, but we're going to select the entire part, and we're going to go not copy. We're going to go to Utilities, and then we're going to go to Transpose. Now this is the menu that you want, and you want to say transpose it down. Direction is down. Method, you can either choose diatonically or chromatically. I choose diatonically just because we're not dealing with a lot of sharps or flats here. But the interval that you want to transpose it down to is a sixth. So you're going to select 6 from this option, click OK, and then it should transpose your part. I have to point out a note of caution when you're transposing parts that were wrongly etched into your score when you transferred this score to another. When you use the transposition tool, it is important to know what sort of transposition you want to do. For instance, if you want just a simple transposition, you need to use the diatonic method of transposition, up or down. That'll just give you the basic interval that you need to use. It'll give you this: unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh octave, or other. But if you use chromatically, it gives you all these options: perfect, augmented, diminished, major, minor. It gives you all of those. I wouldn't use that one unless it is a complicated transcription, like if you wanted a completely different key or a completely different thing for a part, which I don't normally do that. But if you do that one. If you want just a simple transposition, do the diatonic method, because it will save you a lot of headaches. I have all my parts transposed. Now we could play back. Oops. Alright, and there it goes. So remember, use the diatonic transposition because it will transpose all of these things simply and not in a complex way, okay? If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and I will see you in the next session.